Good day. Here we are, Thursday, the 21st of the 6th, 2018. If you don't know what private and public means, private is in equity trust law, and public is in, well, basically, public servants' access to public goods and services. So, I'm no expert, but when one is complexity in one's disability or life or illnesses, whatever it may be, just making some notes. I contacted public servant. Yes, well, actually, quite a few, but well, I didn't. Somebody did an email for me, and seeking clarification. Right, just a very short video. In United Kingdom, I'm talking about. Okay, I'll use to study what I know. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with the public side. If you look at a pyramid, imagine the man and woman's a beneficiary, and when unfortunately you're offered goods and services and you become ill, you're unable to work, you need care, social housing, all that, and it comes under the banner of offer goods and services. It's obviously contract law, but the way it works in trust law, it's obviously your signatory on their documents creates the presumption that you're consenting, even though it's not really done in the manner it should be, to aid disabled people. Don't even get me started on that, because I've already trying to seek clarification on that one, what's happened. So anyway, so it's like, in a way, there is no way out on, unfortunately, using the access of public funded services when one becomes ill, pardon health. And you don't have family to, like in the old days, you might have family support network or funding. And before these so-called, in history, public services ever existed, there was the poor houses, and if you ever look at the history of all that. Well, anyway, it's all protecting your assets. Well, that's when you go into the private and you have health, you have your skills, you have support, you have a trust protecting your assets. So basically, if you're able to self-employed, you're able to work, and you're putting your energy and your equity into that private trust. So, gosh forbid you end up getting ill, or you're not reliant on the state system in the public trust side. Is that ever anyone gets that? It's a bit hard to explain. I know a lot of things, and I no longer be able to do anything I used to do, especially the documents I used to do. I can only do very bare minimum. So that's where I've just come across a subject on public office or guardianship. Yeah, guardianship. So I had in the private up until 2 days ago, which is quite shocking, the offer of a general power of attorney, of guardianship, to protect my rights when I'm dealing with certain individuals in the public side in trust law. But obviously, due to the nature of, unfortunately, it is complex. I can out my ill health and my reality. It's too much for that individual to take on. They still have a website. They still have, it's all beginning stages. And I thought, okay, I knew it'd be that. Because unfortunately, when it comes to all United Kingdom system, to do with Department of Works and Pensions, to do with any public services. And when you're relying on offers or medicals, assessments, whatever subject it may be, there's all the statute laws in place to protect people's lawful rights in statute law, but they're not always men and women in their job role. Services in the United Kingdom is gone tenfold, and I only know by experience in my area. So therefore, it's not possible. You can conditionally accept an offer and how to sign documents. So you're conditionally accepting an offer services under duress. And if you look at Latin, well, obviously you might not know, but if you learn certain things I've learned over the years, and I can't be specific, I've just found a link, but I can't get it up and put a link at the end of this video description. I don't know how to do all that technical stuff just yet, and I'm too knackered and ill to do that. So I just come on to basically make it clear I know how it works and your data, and it is massive. The huge amount of your private data of a man or woman. I don't even get me started how it works for children. I wouldn't even know. But the basic information, how it's not accessible format, how it's not even comprehensible, and how you just get Puppet 7 reading it so damn fast. It's absolutely null and void in contract law, because there's no full disclosure in advance. And so basically I'm in the middle trying to seek the clarification and correction of that. So thus you can add in statute law your corrections, it's lawful right, in incorrect data held. But then you need to know what data is being held and for what purposes. But that's going to take time. And if you haven't got time because you're being rushed, and it should not happen this way in private, sorry, in public services being offered to an individual, they have a duty of care, and that's all in national statute law, and that's in the public interest law. So once you work it out, you know what's what, and then just try and work with these people. That's all I suggest. It's very hard work when they don't want to work with you. They just got a tick box computer systems the way they do it now, and they don't look at you as an individual, which is meant to, because in the public and statute law and trust law as well, it clearly states what's meant to happen and how it's meant to happen. And I know every circumstance is different, but the targeting, the way it's worded, and the targeted kind of assumptions that one size fits all, that's what's happening in my area, because there's cutbacks going on. So the individual or their family members or anyone that tries to help them to comprehend what the hell's going on is not relaying back factually or correctly, and they might have an advocate paid, funded by the public purse, but if they're not doing or making notes for the individual and they're paid to do that, then we got the question mark. So how, in the private and trust law, I know what's meant to happen, but now we got dealing with another issue. If you got a disability, whether it's learning, whether it's you're blind, whether it's, well, multitude or types of disabilities, affects them all different ways. With mine, I need audio recording, only for personal use only, and that's been rejected. There's no problem for 3 times of the meetings until recent. So all the previous guardianship and general power of attorney, guardianship appointee, he done so many good emails. And until I got all the evidence and how I've not made it complicated, it's the others. They're red tape. So basically, when they have in the public government claim 3 commission, I don't know what they're called in their job title, it's so bloody confusing. just say 3 men, and they pay £700 a day, and yet they're financially, for public purse, are really tightening the strains on any kind of real who really is offered what, etc., etc. In it used to be known as, generally, I used to know it as community care. So you know where you are with that subject. And what used to happen, it was simplified, it was made easy, and it was straightforward. But no, it's more complicated now. So it's no wonder you've got so many unbalances and quick decision making being made, because you've got so many caseloads and men and women in similar position trying to get social worker, trying to get assessments. And then you've got the national statute law in the Care Act 2014. So they're throwing out documents that the individual cannot comprehend because it's 30 pages long and it's small print and it's not even accessible format. So then in the public trust law, there's a duty of care when it comes to Quality Act 2010, and you can go into it and research it, whatever meets your needs to investigate. Don't guarantee that any of these men and women will hold up your lawful rights, because in my situation at the moment they're not. But anyway, you might be lucky, depending where you live. And then you got the disability discrimination that is happening. And when you have first-hand knowledge, it's important to get evidence-based. So whether it's you have somebody that keeps a journal, who said what and how. But when you're limited on what you have, a private arrangement or family or friends, and they're struggling and limited what they can do, well, that unfortunately is doesn't help, because the advantage and the point of view of the public servants in the job role is taking advantage of that. So then we got the management levels above not using, they might know what's meant to be nationally in statute law, but the implementation in the mannerism in their in-house policies, procedures is not implemented on the ground level to help the disabled man or woman, family members, to engage, especially disabled man or woman. So that causes more anxiety, more triggers, because the key questions are trigger points. If don't even get me, I tell you, you ask any man or woman that's going through the process of Care Act 2014, an assessment process, whether or not there's psychological, mental health, trauma-based, perhaps as well, is being triggered by the questions being asked of them. There should be training, and when you've got a healthcare professional, whether it's occupation therapy, whether it's an OT, whatever job title role, they are not implementing in the public trust law in the United Kingdom. I don't know what it's like anywhere else. They're not implementing it for men and women, from what I've gathered so far in a short period of time. And I have first-hand knowledge of that. So therefore, anyone out there, before you end up getting ill, God forbid, look into trust law, but in the private, and research equity trust law, if you're able to, before you become unwell, or you get run over, or you have an illness or an accident. And therefore, it protects your interests and assets in a trust. So then you can now have family members appointed as guardianships, appointees, attorneys, an appointed trust. And this is where you find, and I don't know who knows this, why do you think so many politicians have a lot of contacted a public servant to think she could, well, seeking clarification, anything could be offered, anything else, basically, because everything I've done so far, I've done, and that's all I can do now. So there might be not a favourable outcome for my situation, because, unfortunately, without the support of in public funded services, you need all the medical evidence, and not just medical, but your personal care, OT reports. I mean, the last time I've had all this or so many assessments, so many reports over the years, is unbelievable. But the last lot was about 2013. On the practical side of medical, I sought clarification by public funded medical, they call it practice in UK, and they have a turnaround of the way they work is so different now. So I was trying to Thursday today, so I knew I wouldn't get to my own surgery to be able to get through to my own doctor. The people that work there, the ones I dealt with last Friday, know what's going on with me. So I'm going to have to wait till tomorrow. And I don't know if they can get an urgent home visit out. So it's a personal matter. I won't go public on that. But this has caused a relapse because of what happened to me last Friday by a public servant. And I'd thank goodness I had a one-off individual. She was able to do, because of a shift work pattern yesterday and today, to get this long document off for me. And I copied in, because I can't do all this anymore, copied in a document, Word document, and that was basically to do the factual first-hand knowledge. So although I know certain words, how to do certain emails, I'm noticing, because my reduction, my health, the spelling and the words of emails is not coming across the way I think it. So that is the extra, unfortunately, areas a lot of people might be experiencing. The pressure is on man or woman or the family members or friends when you're undergoing the offer of these kind of assessments, especially when you also, it's not just the care, is it? It's not seeing what could be offered, because the cutbacks in care packages already is happening nationally in the United Kingdom for men and women. So I made this straight because of the individual that was appointee in trust and private, appointee trust, because if ever I end up getting a remedy, and it's not going to get in public trust law, you're not really going to get a remedy, because it's really up to these public servants and their decision making. Or you might just go and find someone, and the cutbacks in statute law and funding to go to, they call it a judicial review, I think, to go to the court system and appeal decisions. But that takes time. And if you're at risk, well, deemed to be by a public servant at risk, whatever situation it may be, as an adult, and I can't quote how children decide works at all, so I'm not sure on that. What will happen will be your immediate safety, whatever it may be, will have to come first. So you might end up in a place you don't want to be because of the environment. It's not of your doing, but the social worker people won't look at that. They will step in your home, say, you're like me, I'm 10 months disrepair. And despite the document went off yesterday, of proving dates, times, facts, everything's hid behind everything and blocked everything, this particular individual didn't want to know, and she is a public servant. And that resulted me ended up in hospital on an emergency basis. And I think I made a video about that. Can't remember now. It's last September. And that was witnessed a live video feed. And this public servant denied. I mean, the way she said everything, I can't repeat because it's a private conversation. And I'm not going to breach anyone's data. So all the clarification was in that long document, and it's tried to word it in sections. So the first was corrections of presumptions being made. If you don't know what these words are, what I'm saying, just make a note and look it up. Research it. Assumption of assumption is a guess. Assumption, if you don't rebut a comment, an opinion made up by a man or woman, whatever subject or whatever situation you're in, and I'm just saying about public servants, then you need to get that done as a matter of urgency, really. And as held as a correction on record, you have a lawful right for that in the public side in trust law. Any man or woman in the job role as a public servant. So whatever subject you're dealing with. So that's what happened yesterday. Then the next part was on the data protection, the right to be informed how all your data is being used for. Well, perhaps they not be able to identify every private or public services, companies or really companies where that data is being shared and who to, but you have a right to be informed. So that is blatantly very brief, and it doesn't give enough information. Now I'm quoting this new statute law, 2018 data protection. I wish that could be made easy access. I wish there'd be accessible format for disabled people. So, you know in advance what you're signing or agreeing to, which I will have never been. That's never been offered. So every town and city, it's worth finding out in the public side, in trust law, what their privacy notice and in-house data protection policy, what they're doing now. Because in my area, they don't have an opt-out documentation online for public to fill in to restrict data retention or sharing data. So it had to be worded not to be disrespectful, but to uphold one's lawful rights as an individual trying to be offered goods and services. Okay, so that was one second point. The third point was on clarification, and important one, when there is nothing in statute law, United Kingdom, on recording an individual to assess their disability and reasonable adjustments for aiding them, because there's no advanced questions in the Care Act assessment processes, especially in my area, it's going on with me. What is required of one and how, because I need that kind of information. That's how my mind works. That's how my disability affects me. So I need it accessible, like A, B, C, D, E. This is what require and why. Therefore, I can try and find a friend when they got a different shift, they can help type it up, because when you write it by hand, they ain't going to read your writing, and it's very hard to. All I can think of is I've got the offer of this old-fashioned type cassette recorder, so I'm about to get another one tomorrow perhaps. So in that way, on an offer of assessment in a meeting, for example, You've got one machine with one tape in one and one for yourself. So it's recorded everything there and then. And that's in National Statute Law policy for Department of Works and Pensions. If one has been offered a medical, whatever contracted medical company claimed to be professional in their job role to assess the man or woman. So whether it's a Matomos, Capita, PLC, Atos, whatever. But the concern, and this recent document added at the end, was who within the management level of a county council, generally now, no information, no documentation, nothing on the website, nothing in statute law within the Care Act 2014 to say an individual's right who's been assessed is not able to record audio only for their own personal use to aid them. And if it's been denied, then how can they engage fully in the process? So that went off too. I'll guarantee you the response will be again. Always, they're pressurising time, don't forget. So it would be a quick automatic response yet again, the same old, same old. But this time, the emails went off. 5th of June, there was another one. There's quite a few emails went off. I include, well, not me, but I said to my friend, include them because they've already been required and not a clear response has come back. You need to also be aware of this fact. There is, I don't know, I can't find this document now, so I'm going to ask a friend at the weekend to have a look for me. There is, I don't know if it's every town and city in the United Kingdom, in public funded county councils or borough councils. There is a blanket policy, well this one anyway in my area, about communication deemed to be harassment. The words was used in such a document and I can't find it now, can't find it on the website. I don't know where my mate saved it to. So I need them back to find it for me because that is important to have that as a paper copy. And you need to be aware how if you have a disability and that is not recognised and that is not fully comprehended by that public servant, whoever you're interacting with, that can be taken out of context. So then you're going to find yourself on the other end of the negativity response back. So you're not going to have that open dialogue, honest dialogue, because they're going to be very negative towards you. And that's what my experience has been so far. So I do not know what incorrections have been said about my private life, about my character, about my situation. So this was clarification ended of the document of the email. And that came, obviously, it's not very good sending an email early hours of the morning, but if that hadn't been thought out and carefully worded, they could easily twist that and say, well, you don't know what you're talking about, and that's another disability you might need to be assessed for. So just be aware how it can be misconstrued, and God forbid you won't have to go through all this and don't have to do what I've done. And with the support I need. It's not very great when it's complex. So what happens also, if your personal situation, no fault of your own, or loved ones, is complex, in the eyes of the public, not everybody perhaps, but in my area it is. If the public funded services employees, and this is coming from management level, by the way, they will see it as a funding nightmare. And they will try and brush you off to pass you on to another department. That's what they're doing to me. And how do you rebuild up trust with new people again when you're already struggling to engage? And then you've got other illnesses you're struggling with on top. So that key comment about engagement, was made and the trigger points. And this, unfortunately, God forbid anyone goes what I've gone through and still going through. As I called up the doctors after my sister and explaining everything to her, and I know they go to her for information if I've been in contact. And my sister she's never been emailing back what I've been sending her. And she does that at 8 o'clock in the morning today. So while I'm half asleep in bed, contacting her, and she's all the way south in Wales. And she's got an autistic son. She's got her own. I'm building up like trust relationship again with her. And that's been hard work, but I've been working on me. So if you also have unfortunate situations where you're struggling with your life, you're struggling with your health, the angle, from my experience only, it's up to you, is meditation, is your health, is your rest. You find it difficult to put off, your phone's off, and just have some time to yourself. Even if it's just sitting in the garden, or like me, there's no real garden, in a car park, and just take in the air or nature or bird. Just simple things. Because the system, how it works is to pressurize, and the pressure will build up, and your body and your mind and your health will go downhill. And this is what I remember from years ago by learning about meditation, natural health. And I clean. When you're in trauma and you're triggered by all this, you forget what works and what works in the aspect of your everyday life before. So I ended up having to call the doctors. They're extremely worried about my safety and my psychological well-being, and I had to have more medication. That's the only thing that worked. It's still traumatizing me. I've not recovered from it. And but when you have long-term trauma in your life and effects in your life, you find a balance. But when it's triggered, and these questions are trigger questions, but everyone's circumstances are different. So this is never advanced information to divulge or inform to the man or woman being assessed. And if that was full disclosure, and this is how, unfortunately, these kind of questions might trigger off, and I would like to see, I don't know if there is a policy out there in different towns and cities and councils, how they meant to help disabled people, and knowledge and awareness, how to treat the individual or sensitivity and the questions, because it's in black and white. I mean, colour format on these disability websites. You got Facebook pages. You got all this specific information what your rights are. Now, I'm going to suggest a couple. You got disability rights. I don't know what the website is. Just Google it and find out. You got another, community care. You got another one, or disabled people against cuts. And all of these key bits of information will aid you to know on the basic level, okay, on your everyday level, what meant to be happening. So just focus on trying to get right within yourself to cope with this pressure. Because these men and women in their job role, they got cases stacked full. And that's unfortunately what it is now, the cutbacks. And this is why you've got so many people in hospital beds waiting for services. That's why you've got so many care homes closing. This is why we have so many people going down the tube in the well-being. They call it well-being, but I call it's a combination of things. So the statute law, the key elements I picked up was about a new element, by the way, is about your environment, your housing environment. Well, of course, I count self-care and that. And then over the years, I never got the budgeting or the funding included in the final care plans. So left out. There was no funding for a day centre or a holiday, and it should have been all along. And all they kept doing for funding purposes was reprinting old care plans, which was non-factual, up to date. And when it come to such a serious situation in the end, certain things happened in my own home. But where it comes to two people against you, you need to have some kind of protection mechanism in place. Or there needs to be an upfront disclosure. What happens in the event of something goes wrong? What is the procedure and what is your process and how long do you take? In the meantime, can you replace that carer? Can you change your rota? Because the way it was happening, it was just obviously, it was pushed upon myself, and I didn't know what my rights were then, and I've learned ever since. So that is in the public trust law. If you can avoid all this to start with and just keep in private trust law and equity trust, that is obviously brilliant, because then you know what your rights are, your families have got trust and protection set up, and if you don't have family and friends, then, and you become unwell, like my sister said to me about my mum, what happened to her, and I was young, apparently, I was about 7 when it happened, and all I can remember going to this farm, I thought it was a holiday, but it wasn't, it was a foster carer place. And apparently my mum had broken arms, and she's had 5 children and no one to look after them. So there's all these kind of situations you need to think about. So again, it's all about bringing people together to work together. And I'm not against every man and woman in the public sector side of things. It might sound like that, some of my videos. It's not my intention. When the negativity comes in, it's because I have first-hand knowledge of the treatment, of unlawful treatment. I like to think when things are, I like to think they're going to pull their socks up and work with me lawfully this time. And eventually, I like to think, but I don't, the way they are at the moment, I know it's not going to happen like that. And this place, as far as I'm concerned, is just bricks and mortar to me now. I'm not neglecting it, but the fact is the disrepair and leaving me without a shower for 10 months. And that document was dated the 12th of the 2nd, 2018 this year. And now I cannot have an operation I need, and I can't recuperate here because the environment as well, the external and the neighbours, the environment, everything together, it means I need another health assessment. So it's the same old, but a different process, in different mannerism, and different words, because obviously now it's 2018. But to be blamed, well, not blamed, but be implied that, there's nothing up to date. Well, unfortunately, if there's a medical practice, they just keep your medication and they say there's nothing to be able to offer in operations. Well, that's the reason why the physical side, there's no up-to-date reports on that, because I've been informed there's no operations will be able to work on my body to cure me. So I'm just kept on these medications with the medical equipment. But that was not good enough for this public servant. She's not medically trained. So why don't she go and seek advice of someone that is, instead of interrogating me about that, which again is another trigger point. Then if you've got mental health, you're trauma related in life, whatever it may be, just because you got discharged out of the NHS system because an opinion by man and woman in the job role will say, oh, it's too deep-rooted, you're not ready for therapy, and we just give you this medication for now. And so that's been left like that for years. Well, it's not my fault then, is it? If one is not offered any review. I had to make the call to question, and it goes back to your medical practice doctors. Why has one not been offered any medical review on the physical health, your psychological health, or general well-being? Yeah? And that is where the changes are coming with the technical, how it's all changing now. So this is where I'd like to think I can learn skills eventually on the technology, and look at how that could help, like self-help in a way. Because don't forget, when public services offices are closed, Christmas, New Year and holidays and things, then you're in a difficult position. What are you going to do? So if there's technology available to aid the individual in their lives, then it could be a better thing. So I'm not against anything that's going to help individuals like that. But then we're looking at the reality of what's going on in a bigger picture, and in like not just in 2018 but the future as well. And so, okay, you might have national discussions, but don't forget, when it boils down to it, every town and city in the United Kingdom, the budgets are squeezed, and yet if you're able-bodied, you're working and you're paying through the nose for taxes, whatever, you're going to feel the pinch. And your attitude, without meaning to, might just turn against, oh, that individual's a scrounger, or that making up their disability. Well, that's just turning man against man again, isn't it? That's just playing in division, isn't it? That isn't going to help nobody. So it's crucial. A lot of this thing, really, is common sense, a lot of it. Common decency, really. And unfortunately, a lot of these men and women in the job role, when you're relying on them for services, they just got their procedure to use, and they don't always get it right. And I wish to goodness that individual had not treated me the way she did on Friday, because I really thought I was progressing in my trusting these people that it's very hard to do, and now it set me back tenfold again, back to square one. So I'm really in that position now, not knowing how to move forward on this. So I'm just making this video because if they breach my trust, how do you move on with public services employees who's caused that and not hiding, but they are protecting their employee? Because don't forget, in the United Kingdom, public servants have known as unions. They pay unions to protect their job rights, employment rights. But where's the public protection? Where's your protection or my protection to hold these people accountable? It isn't now. And that's where it comes to our, all of us, the public attitude, to not turn against each other, but to come to unite. And because I think it relates to not just the United Kingdom, though, does it? It's all about your common decency and sense. Not everybody's like this, though. You can't get on with everybody. But the ones you do, sometimes I have come across the key public servants, employees I have come across that are very intuitive to aid people and what they require, are those that do the hands-on work. So personal care in hospitals, for example. So you've got those that are transport people to get you home from hospital. You got the first responders, like, not everybody's like this, by the way. My recent experience last year was the ambulance crew people. And, well, I wasn't conscious and aware to what's going on anyway, but they were so professional, so I wouldn't be here without their support. And then you get the odd comment at somebody that do their best in an ordinary shopkeeper, and you can see in their eyes that they're struggling and they're fed up with the system. But when you go to a place regularly, you get to know them, you're just chatting, you see the human kindness in their eyes, their nature. And sometimes I've been in a place where I've been in the right place at the right time in my wheelchair, and I've seen a grown man cry. He's an ex-army man, and he's got PTSD, and he explained to me, and he just got attacked. He had a seizure in the park. Oh, hiya, Tim Paul. How are you doing today? Let me just read your comments. How are you? Sorry, I haven't read my comments. Let me just read that. What we all need are a whole lot more refugees. Oh, you're going to be so funny, aren't you? And let me just read your comment. You're sorry, it gone off again, my screen. Let me just read that out. What we all need are a whole lot more refugees from hostile or war-torn countries jammed together as essentially, is it the word? And possibly prefer, hold on, I can't get my words out today. Let me just reread this. And jammed together as possible, preferably in cities, so as to slowly learn to get along with each other. Yeah. What was the other one you said? Yeah. And then you say, well, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. The guy got attacked when he had a seizure. Yeah. No, that's funny. Thanks. Oh, that's so funny. You need a bit of laugh for human life, don't you? I've got nothing against men and women, but I mean, we see what's going on with all this political agenda, with all these, I see it in my area. I see on the political agenda, which I'm not going to go into because it's different subject another day, but I see what you mean on that one. Yeah, that guy you had was an English bloke, and in the park up the road, I know in my area where he meant, and I happened to be outside in the town centre in the shop, outside I should say, and he was asking for change. And you know, sometimes the people just make assumptions, people begging, but you just don't know what their lives are going through, okay? So I just went to one shop and I just saw him. I don't know what made me stop. And, you know, I know what I'm going through. So, and this guy is tall and well built, and I saw his face had broken on his, let me think where it was, on his left side of his face, and his eyes was broken, the bone was broken in his face. And it's so swollen, it was unreal. So I knew he had broken bone. But he was so desperate to get some change for a sandwich. Now, I don't know what, but my sister, like this morning, said to me, I've always been, as a little kid, able to read people. But I lost that talent years ago because I've had so much going on in my life. But I've only just started realising it in other people in the past, say, 4 weeks again. And so with this guy, I saw it in him. Something made me stop. And I don't always believe in coincidences. It just happened to be in the right place at the right time that day. I bet London, the 1967 is... Let me have a look what you just said. I bet London in 1967 is indefinitely more fun than it is today. Yeah, too bloody right. What's up with that, right? It's no one's fault. A whole lot of people are to blame. But we shan't go naming names. Okay, I'll give you one example, right? I know what you mean by that, right? My mother and the rest of my members of family, when we were from Cornwall, we went to my brother's wedding in London in the late 70s. So, yeah, I know I'm getting a bit old now. But anyway, there wasn't half the people. When I used to go to London in my former life, travelling in PR, media, TV and stuff like that, I used to be involved in UK. And the connections I made, there was a few different nationalities about, yeah. And it wasn't as crowded in them days as it is now. So when my kids were younger, I used to take them there, educate them on life, not just one area, just traveling about. We went traveling different places. And then on the odd weekend, I did my training in natural health. I would meet all sorts of lovely people from different walks of life. It was amazing, the cultures. I was so impressed. But now, I can't comment what it's like now. I could only go on my adult son, what he used to tell me, my daughter-in-law, about a year back, how when they went to take my daughter-in-law have a day out, there was more different nationalities. There was hardly any British people in the central area, at least, because it's a tourist area. And they lived down outside of Morden at the time, on the outskirts of London. And it wasn't as bad there, but as I don't know what anybody who lives around the area now would say, but I really do not know. I just know that in different largest towns and cities, the immigration, bringing them into United Kingdom. I mean, we're never going to leave Brexit. I mean, if people don't realise by now, well, they've messed up with all that and give the illusion that we are United Kingdom. But there's always a division, and opinion goes on in the public eye sometimes because they believe the mainstream narrative, the media. Well, I'm never against any man or woman, but I would like to think, and a big but, I would like to think that we put British people first, born and bred in the country, and not just give a home or place to those that, in a nutshell, if they didn't bloody bomb their countries, and if there wasn't all this blinking political wars going on all the bloody time, these people would keep their homes. So I'm not really got anything much political on this point of view because I'm not really have much to say on it. But from what you said and what I've seen in other people's posts on media and social media, I never, ever, ever watch mainstream telly ever because of the propaganda. But what I observe is a lot of confusion, really, what's really behind all this. But from years of observing, that's all I can do is observe. And in my area, for example, that's all I can I don't get out and about as much as I used to anymore. But from what I used to observe is, there is more mixture of culture. So what I used to see in London was it's more spread out now. I have come across really nice people, like Polish people live above me, Lithuanian. I've come across some nice people that their English is getting good. My brother used to be teaching English to these different nationalities. I've still got some really good CDs and teaching English, but I'm not very academic. I'm more artistic. So I was trying to sell that. You look online, you could buy that kind of like CDs and books for about 200 quid. So I was trying to give it away, but nobody wants them. And I thought I could do with somebody who's teaching somebody English with foreign people. But yeah. Anyway, let's go back to that guy because the positive outcome was on that one. I saw him begging outside the store, and I called him over to me, and I said, "There's a little bit of change I had," and he started crying in front of me. A grown man, bless his heart, didn't know me, didn't know him, and I said, "Well, what's wrong?" And I saw he got injured, and that's why he told me. And I knew where he was genuine and where he meant where it happened. I said, "Well, God, where's the public? Was anybody around in an assault in broad daylight in a park?" And the location in my area where he mentioned, there's a lot of traffic always going up that road and by the park. And he said no, and he got robbed. You see, he ended up blacking out, and that's when he got robbed. So he was so concerned how he's going to get his sandwich, his food in this house. So I said, well, why? What happened? Have you got any food in your home? And he explained, he has left the army, he's struggling to cope with he told me, I'm a stranger, by the way, and he told me he had PTSD, and he doesn't trust anybody. He keeps his windows blacked out, and that is a symptom of serious effects of trauma in the PTSD side of it, mental health. And oh my gosh, I said, all I could say to him was I can relate. And I know how difficult it is. Just be a listening ear for him, just simple things. And I said, well, I don't know where the words come from, but I just said, is there anything that you like to try and take his mind off on being upset the way he was, just to get him trying to think of where he is now and not so distressed. And that's when he stopped crying. And that's when he said he likes computers. He likes working on his computer. So I could tell he's intelligent by switching the conversation with him to focus on that. And it's his trauma that he's gone through being in the army. And that's what he said to me. And I said, well, look, I just had my voice was very low and just calm. Yeah, thank you, tinfoil hat. And I just basically said to the guy, well, do you think here's some change, you can get your sandwich. When do you next get your payment if you're not working? And he explained, okay, so you think you got enough for a couple of days? So he said, yeah. I said, okay, well, do you think you have courage in yourself? Because I was trying to give him encouraging words and tried to reassure him and that he's not alone and how we could use a computer to look for support online. And if he feels alone, I tried to give, I don't think he'll remember, but I did give information that might help him a little bit, even videos to look or put on his computer. And then I said, well, do you think you could go to the hospital? That's the first thing I thought as well. And I would suggest if you can feel you got the energy and you got your sandwich to get up and get checked out. And once you're there, you might be able to see if they can help you with anything else. So I just put the thought in his mind and I left it for him to make the decision for himself. And that calmed him right down. For somebody to stop and listen. Just simple as that. And then I said, well, do take care and just remember you're not alone. Even though it feels like you are. And I don't know that too well. So I just thought I'd add that into the stream today, just to give anybody out there, if you do really feel like shite, and we all get our days, and I've been going through a lot myself. And it is hard to remember what works and what can bring you out of it. So thanks for your comment, tinfoil hat. That was so funny. But you're right. But it's not about divide, in my opinion. It's not about divide. It's very hard times for a lot of people in many different situations. So I'm going to end it now of this stream. I need to go and get sorted. So, thanks for listening. I hope you're doing well. Anybody checking this video out? Yes, it's difficult. If you don't know what I've talked about at the beginning of the stream, then research the subjects and then just remember, take time out for yourself. Forget to switch off your devices. Just take a moment, whatever works for you when you're going through your... Yeah, and sometimes the technology, put it this way, if you're bedridden, you can't get out and about, have you ever thought to see if you can get one of these little devices. I don't know what, I've never used one, but it's like a device you put on your head, virtual reality or something, where you could perhaps link up to a computer and put a program on, like you're going on holiday even though you can't travel. So you don't have to go outside your door. You can just imagine. It works, the visual, I think, and sound. So it's like you're actually on a beach, although you're not. So that can affect your psychological mind and give you a sense of like, you're not alone, you are participating, you are on holiday, even though you're not physically. I've heard someone can do that. I don't know much about it. I've got to go. Time's getting on now for me. So take care, everybody, and have a good night.